This is a traditional um, Blackfeet story. My little sister used to like it a lot, so I'm going to read it to you. It's called Heavy Collar and the Ghost Woman. The Blood Camp was on Old Man's River, where Fort McLeod now stands. A party of 7 men started to war toward the Cypress Hills. Heavy Collar was the leader. They went around the Cypress Mountains, but found no enemies and started back toward their camp. On their homeward way, Heavy Collar used to take the lead. He would go out far ahead on the high hills and look over the country, acting as scout for the party. At length they came to the south branch of the Saskatchewan River, above Seven Persons Creek. In those days there were many war parties about, and this party traveled concealed as much as possible in the coulees and low places. As they were following up the river, they saw at a distance 3 old bulls lying down close to a cut bank. Heavy Collar left his party and went out to kill one of these bulls, and when he had come close to them, he shot one and killed it right there. He cut it up, and as he was hungry, he went down into a ravine below him to roast a piece of meat. For he had left his party a long way behind, and night was now coming on. As he was roasting the meat, he thought, for he was very tired, "It is a pity I did not bring one of my young men with me. He could go up on that hill and get some hair from that bull's head, and I could wipe out my gun." While he sat there thinking this and talking to himself, all of a sudden a bunch of hair came over him through the air and fell on the ground right in front of him. When this happened, it frightened him a little, for he thought perhaps some of his enemies were close by and had thrown the bunch of hair at him. After a little while he took the hair and cleaned his gun and loaded it, and then sat and watched for a time. He was uneasy, and at length decided that he would go on further up the river to see what he could discover. He went on, up the stream, until he came to the mouth of the St. Mary's River. It was now very late in the night, and he was very tired, so he crept into a large bunch of ryegrass to hide and sleep for the night. Now the summer before this, the Blackfeet, the Siksika, had been camped on this bottom, and a woman had been killed in the same patch of ryegrass where Heavy Collar had laid down to rest. He did not know this, but still he seemed to be troubled that night. He could not sleep. He could always hear something, but what it was he could not make out. He tried to go to sleep, but as soon as he dozed off, he kept thinking he heard something in the distance. He spent the night there, and in the morning, when it became light, there he saw, right beside him, the skeleton of the woman who had been killed the summer before. That morning he went on, following up the stream to Belly River. All day long as he was traveling, he kept thinking about his having slept by this woman's bones. It troubled him. He could not forget it. At the same time, he was very tired because he had walked so far and had slept so little. As night came on, he crossed over to an island and determined to camp for the night. At the upper end of the island was a large tree that had drifted down and lodged, and in a fork of this tree he built his fire and got in a crotch of one of the forks and sat with his back to the fire, warming himself. But all the time he kept thinking about the woman he had slept beside the night before. As he sat there, all at once he heard over beyond the tree, on the other side of the fire, a sound as if something were being dragged toward him along the ground. It sounded as if a piece of a lodge were being dragged over the grass. It came closer and closer. Heavy Collar was scared. He was afraid to turn his head and look back to see what it was that was coming. He heard the noise come up to the tree in which his fire was built, and then it stopped. And all at once he heard someone whistling a tune. He turned around and looked toward the sound, and there, sitting on the other fork of the tree, right opposite to him, was the pile of bones by which he had slept. Only now they're all together in the shape of a skeleton. This ghost had on it a lodge covering. The string, which is tied to the pole, was fastened about the ghost's neck. The wings of the lodge stood out on either side of its head. The wings of the lodge could be seen, and behind it the lodge could be seen stretched out and fading away into the darkness. The ghost sat on the old dead limb and whistled its tune, and as it whistled, it swung its legs in time to the tune. When Heavy Collar saw this, his heart almost melted away. At length he mustered up courage and said, "O ghost, go away and do not trouble me. I'm very tired. I want to rest." The ghost paid no attention to him, but kept on whistling, swinging its legs in time to the tune. 4 times he prayed to her, saying, "O ghost, take pity on me. Go away and leave me alone. I'm tired. I want to rest." The more he prayed, the more this ghost whistled and seemed pleased, swinging her legs and turning her head from side to side, sometimes looking down at him and sometimes up at the stars, and all the time whistling. When he saw that she took no notice of what he said, then Heavy Collar got angry at heart and said, "Well, ghost, you do not listen to my prayers, and I shall have to shoot you to drive you away." With that, he seized a gun, and throwing it to his shoulder, he shot right at the ghost. When he shot at her, she fell over backward into the darkness, screaming out, "Oh, Heavy Collar, you shot me, you killed me. You dog, Heavy Collar. There is no place on earth where you can go that I will not find you. No place where you can hide that I will not come." As she fell back and said this, Heavy Collar sprang to his feet and ran away as fast as he could. She called after him, "I have been killed once, and now you are trying to kill me again. Oh, Heavy Collar." As he ran away, he could still hear her angry words following him, until at last they died away in the distance. He ran all night long, and whenever he stopped to breathe and listen, he seemed to hear in the distance the echoes of her voice. All he could hear was, "Oh, Heavy Collar." And then he would rush away again. He ran until he was all tired out, and by this time it was daylight. He was now quite a long way below Fort McLeod. He was very sleepy, but dared not lie down, for he remembered that the ghost had said that she would follow him. He kept walking on for some time, and then he sat down to rest and at once fell asleep.